What's up, everybody? Welcome to Make Things Tiny. My name is Mick, and I'm super excited today to share with y'all my conversation with Jarrod Tocci. Sitting down, talking to them about their experience. They are a van life enthusiast. They also are a tiny house enthusiast. They currently live in a tiny house. They have an incredible YouTube channel. They're doing some really amazing things with van life in general, doing some really awesome van tours, and just a wonderful person, a great person to get to know. So I'm excited for y'all to hear from them. So without saying too much more, let's jump right into the conversation. All right, so I'm here with Jarrod Tocci, Jarrod Tocci on YouTube. Thank you so much, Jarrod, for taking the time to chat with me. I'm super excited to just hear more about you, learn more about you. Can you take a second and just tell me a little bit about yourself, like how you got interested
Oh,
in tiny houses and just, your whole
goodness.
thing?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Always loving to have chats about anything regarding what we're going to talk about today. It's always just fun, and I will be honest, I completely forgot I had this until about 15 minutes ago when I got a reminder on my phone, and I was like, "Let's go." Um, so I'm excited to be here, though, nonetheless. Yeah, I guess it kind of all I'm a lot older than some of the people in this industry, but I all kind of started back when I was in college, to be honest with you. I went to school for architectural engineering back in 2001 to 2005.
Hmm.
And I remember some of my professors, we actually talked a lot about small space design. I went to school in Boston, so we have a lot of like townhouses and brownstones that are
Yep.
very narrow. So it kind of started way back then when we were doing design work, and luckily I had the phenomenal city of Boston as an architectural backdrop for me to look at and understand and really know what small space design was really like. So I guess I started way back then, but I didn't really get into obviously the van life world until I would say 20 geez, what was it, 2016 or something like that, maybe 2016. So um yeah, that was your original question, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I black out and I don't
Yeah.
remember what your question was.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, I mean that's still a while ago considering how like the industry's still kind of considered it's kind of new for like the mainstream,
Yeah.
market and like it's just growing at kind of like a really intense rate right now. So yeah, 2016 is still a while back, just sort of like getting in and learning things when like most people didn't even know what it meant to design a small space or like going tiny or anything like that. So I think that's pretty cool. And you said you started out in a van and now you're in a tiny house. Was that sort of like the progression of it, or did you always think eventually I want to be in a tiny house? Like, how did that come about?
I actually, way back in college, I actually designed a shipping container house. So
Oh,
I've
cool.
always had a fat infatuation with shipping containers. So I've always
Mhm.
wanted to get into that world. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in the discussion a little bit later. But yeah, in 2016, I watched a video of a girl living in her van, and she had made a YouTube video like how a lot of us discover van life. And I did not want to watch this video at all. And I've
Yeah.
told the story before, the people that know me. But yeah, her name was Kristen from Barefoot Theory, and I actually full circle. I had a moment with at one of her events a couple years ago that she actually asked me to be a speaker
Wow.
at her event. So it was just like one of those moments. Oh my goodness, it was so
Yeah.
much fun.
That's
But
awesome.
I watched her video of like her van tour, and she didn't build it. But anyways, it sparked something in my mind. It sparked something, in me that was like, I want to do this. Kind of like that moment that I think a lot of us have. And I was watching with my brother, and he got involved. He got me involved with it, and I, just started working towards that goal. Like, how am I going to get into a van? Is it feasible? Is it possible? Why am I doing it? The biggest thing is why. And I think for me, it was maybe different than a lot of people, but it was a sense of freedom. It was a sense of not paying rent. It was a sense of travel and adventure and not knowing the unknown and or whatever that saying is, right? Like it was all of those things kind of combined into one. I was dealing with the rat race of Los Angeles, and I was over it all, and I needed a change in life, and that was van life was my calling.
That's awesome. I think you touch on a lot of things that like resonate with people, like the freedom and just being able to sort of not have to worry about the 9 to 5 or just stressing out about rent and paying your bills. I've had plenty of people on the show that talk about just the cost of living goes up. It's so high now, and like most of us are wondering, if or when we'll ever be able to buy houses. So I think tiny houses, vans, like van life that create like presents an opportunity for people to have more control over their lives with like what you're talking about with that rat race is really, especially being like younger, like being in your 30s or your 40s, you think like, well, I don't want to relax when I'm like 70, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to be able to like see the world and live your life when you're younger, not when you're like, you only have like 20 years left or something like that.
I I will say, yeah, I will say like when I started van life, I had no intention of doing social media as my
Hmm.
job.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I get a lot of questions about, hey, how can I do this? How
Yeah.
can I be and I hate the word with a passion. I hate it, the word influencer.
Yeah.
Because I
That's
don't want to
fair.
feel like I'm influencing anybody on making any decision.
Yeah.
I am a
Mhm.
content creator. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do, and it's creating content to entertain or
Yep.
inform people on the thing that I am passionate about.
Right.
So for me to be an influencer to influence you on something, I don't like that like phrase of it,
Hmm.
how it's used. But
Sure.
yeah, so when I started, like I had no intention. I have a background, so I have a background in architectural engineering, but I have a background in I spent 10 years as an actor, stand-up comedian. So
Okay.
um, I moved to Los Angeles in 2000, like 7 or 8 to like to pursue that career. And YouTube was in its infancy stages back then. And then in like 2012, I started going to seminars about YouTube and
Hmm.
understanding on how it works and blah 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 blah. And eventually it created my YouTube channel that is the best of both worlds. It's
Yeah.
my design background as well as, all the comfortability factor of acting and being in front of a camera. Even
Hmm.
though I'm not acting, I'm not putting on a show, but you still have to entertain, you still have to, deal with
Yeah.
all that. Um, so I was very comfortable, like maybe right off the bat, maybe that's why people gravitated towards me. But I originally built a van, my first van, I built it to be a traveling stand-up comedian, which a lot of
Okay.
people don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome, though. I think that's really great that you're able to combine all of those different
Yeah.
passions
Yeah.
together. And I do like that you say you're not an influencer, right? Like that's something I try to like sort of like harp on a lot with Make Things Tiny is like I'm here to share my opinion and the things that I'm learning and researching as I go on tiny houses and let other people do the same and share their
Mm.
journey. Like everyone's on their own journey with this. So the point is definitely not to like say what's right or wrong. It's just to give as much perspective as possible to people so they can make decisions because there is a lot of information out there. And I feel like if you just do Google searches, you're going to be super overwhelmed. The industry doesn't have the same level of like, this is exactly what you do step by step. Like everyone's sort of doing their own thing and there is no wrong way to do it. So I think that that's a really good point too.
There are plenty of wrong ways, but it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I will say you're right. You're absolutely right though. There is no right or wrong way of actually living this lifestyle or doing this lifestyle.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that are forced into it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And there's different zones of people. And the reason I love this community so much is because for a long time, up until about maybe 2022-ish, there
Hmm.
was always when I got into it, there was no judgment ever out of anybody. And we had a phrase back then. We said we live our own van life
Hmm.
where there is no judgment. I don't care if you're in a $250,000 van or if you're in a you know, minivan with a mattress and a sleeping bag. We don't
Yep.
care. All we cared about is we all had a common goal, which was to kind of get out and explore and enjoy life.
Hmm.
And I think that was lost for a couple years, 2 or 3 years during like 2020, 21, 22.
Hmm.
And I think we're starting to come back to that now, finally. And it's so refreshing to me to see others do the same thing. And I mean, tiny house has been around for decades,
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna get more into tiny houses, but yeah, tiny houses have been around. They got really popular in the early 2000s, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I know that you do a lot of like van tours on your channel, which I love,
Hmm.
by the way. Your channel's great. I think
Thank
that
you.
you do a really great job of showing like a variety of like experiences for people that want to do van life. And I think like some of the things that you show are really like amazing. I think most people don't
Thank you.
think like that vans can be like super tricked out and stuff like that too. So it's like it's really cool to see and like learn stuff.
Yeah.
What's been like the most exciting like van tour that you've done? Like,
Oh,
in because you've been doing this for a little bit. Like, what's been the favorite, like your most exciting one that you've done, or like maybe favorite like company you've worked with or anything like that? Like all the stuff you've seen.
not to quote like Tom Brady.
Mhm.
if you're familiar with sports at all.
Yeah.
Not to quote him, but I would probably say the next one. And his famous quote was always like, "What's your favorite Super Bowl? Which one was your favorite?" And his always answer was, "My next ring, my next
Mhm.
Super Bowl."
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say like my next tour. The reason I say my next one is because there's always something new every time I do a new tour.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's a $15,000 DIY van or if it's a $500,000 professional with every bell and whistle on it. I'm always going to find something new that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to kind of go through that progression with me, and I get to see it firsthand. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's fun for me.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I think your passion comes through in all of your videos too. Like you can tell that you're
Thank
really
you.
passionate about it, and I think that that's really encouraging for people to see. Like there might be some people watching it that think like, they want to do something similar one day, or like they want to create content around like vans and a similar topic. So I think that's really cool too. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, I
Appreciate
think
that.
that's awesome. And like now you're living in a tiny house now. Like
Yeah.
how long ago have you been in it? I know that you built it. You say it's off grid. Like what's that been
Yeah.
like for you? Like is it I don't know. Like, I think everyone has like an expectation going and living in a tiny house, whether like you want to sort of like, everyone sort of like has their different mindset around it. Like, is it lived up to your expectations? Like, have you been living in it so far?
Well, we're on a podcast right now, so I can be super honest.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Love it.
um, it has been the most rewarding and grueling time
Hmm.
that I've probably gone through. Um, I think I spent a year building this tiny house. I did it
Okay.
mostly myself, but I hired people to do certain things that I wasn't comfortable doing.
Right.
My dad, that is, bless his heart, 67, 66 years old,
Hmm.
he helped me quite a bit. It was a lot of, pointing and do this, son. But regardless, he did get up there and he got his hands dirty, and I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that he was there to help me with and do with me. I couldn't do. There's no way I would have done it.
Yeah.
So, I give him as much credit as I give myself. But, um, I found out pretty much after I was done with it, and I've been living in my tiny house on my property for 6 or 7 months now.
Hmm.
I've taken all this time to really sit back and reflect. And I've realized that like I really, really enjoy the process more than living it,
Got it.
and if I could take this house and I could put it in a cityscape, I would 1000% do that. Unfortunately, with current municipalities and other laws and zoning and stuff like that, you can't put a tiny house on a piece of dirt in the middle of New York City. You just can't
Hmm.
do that.
Hmm.
So, and the reason I say that is because I'm in a town that is under 10,000 people. It's probably way less than that, actually. It's probably closer to like 6,000. And I'm bored out of my freaking mind. And I need to do
Fair.
something. I need
That's
to,
fair. Yeah.
I just need to, and like I had all these grand ideas of what I wanted to do with my property. I've got 4 acres and it's beautiful where I am. And I wanted to build a container home where I am, and I wanted to make a big garage space to have as my shop. And then I realized like and don't get me wrong, that's a dream for a massive percentage of people, but it wasn't my dream. And I wouldn't have known that unless I tried it.
Hmm.
So I would have regretted not trying it more than where I am now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Of course.
So yeah, I had plans ready, set, go for a container house on property. I actually had I had a big shit. I canceled delivery. I pissed off that company. Um, because I'm selling my tiny house now.
Yeah.
It's up for sale, and I want to move on to my next project. And the best way I can describe it is like I guess I'm a mini developer.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows what a developer is, they own a property, they put their own spice on it by designing and building it, and then they flip it for
Yeah. Of
profit.
course. Yeah.
And I guess for me, I'm a mini developer. I put all my own money into the projects that I do. I don't ask for, if I do ask for banks, that's fine, but I don't ask for help for other like companies to come in and join me doing the
Hmm.
project. So yeah, I'm a mini developer when it comes down to it, and I need to own that role.
Yeah.
And that's been my biggest obstacle, is owning that.
Why do you think that's been hard to sort of own that role?
Um, that's a great question. I don't think I knew. It's kind of like when I was acting, this face is not a leading role, right? And I didn't know that, and nobody can tell you that to your face. You
Hmm.
kind of have to go through the progression of acting and going through auditions and casting directors. Listen, I am not Bradley Cooper. I am Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
And I'm the comedic best friend of the leading role. But it took me like 7 years to figure that out. And again, people can tell you that's all you want to your face. Like, dude, you're not the leading role. You are this
Hmm.
person. And you can believe it or not. It's same thing with being a developer. Like, I can tell myself that I want to live in this tiny house and I want to enjoy it and I'm gonna love it. But I think I'd rather just build them for people. Am I gonna go out and start a company? No, I'm not. Not right now, at least.
Hmm.
Um, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know what the what's among the horizon for me. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
No, that makes sense. I think that makes sense though, because like you really can't know something until you go through it, and everyone's journey is like I think we would love to think, or at least when you're little, you'd love to think that your journey is going to be like a straight line, but it's kind of just like a ball of yarn if you're lucky, and it's just something that kind of unravels and sort of like wiggles, and there's all these twists and turns. Like I think like I don't know. I think if someone had told me like 10 years ago that I would be create like on my have my own YouTube channel and be like interviewing
Yeah.
people in the tiny house industry, I would probably laugh at them because I don't think I saw myself as someone who would be comfortable on camera, but I love it. Like it feels like home to me to like jump on calls with people and be able to chat with people and get to know them and share the things that I'm learning as I go through my own tiny journey. I think that, you just have to wait and see what's going to happen, what happens next, because your comfort level with things changes over time too. So I think that's a really good point.
Well, you're also really good at this. You're really well spoken.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate
you,
it.
you know, it's easy to talk to you. I've never met you before in my life, so
Mhm.
it's just and I feel like we're best friends already. So,
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. I actually really like it a lot.
Great. I appreciate
Um,
that. Thank you so much. It means a lot
and
coming from you because I have a lot of respect for you.
thank you.
I only want to talk to people that are doing really good work and like solid people. And I think that your channel is doing so well. So like that means a lot coming from you.
Thank
So.
you. Yeah, I haven't really talked about it too much. A lot of people have asked me what I'm doing next.
Hmm.
Because they're like, "Oh, your house is up for sale." Like, weren't you living the life? And I was like, "Yeah, I was, but I was,
Yeah.
and you know what? Do you have do you have a dog or a cat or anything?
Two cats.
Two cats. I
Yeah.
really feel that like animals will tell you more than humans will tell you. So like my dog is bored out of her mind.
Hmm.
And I can see that. I can see that she wants when I bring her places with other animals or other people, like she lights up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn it, I kind of miss that for her.
Hmm.
Um, and she has 4 acres to run around here and she, chases squirrels and chipmunks and everything else that has a heartbeat over here. But what are you doing, girl? See? Um, she has told me a lot about hey, Jared, let's go back to the city because I when I got her, I lived in a city.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know where I was going with that. I think she distracted me.
It makes sense though, because I feel like your pets do pick up on a lot of stuff. Like they're pretty intuitive with how you're feeling
Yeah.
too. But yeah, no, for sure. Like I know, because I did consider getting a tiny house right before I moved down here to San Diego, because I moved from Portland like 2 years ago. But I knew that like I think one of my cats could do it because they don't need a lot of space, but the other one I don't think so. Like currently in like a townhouse with stairs and like he literally does laps up and down the stairs like maybe 10 times a day. Like I think that he would be like screaming like of like just so upset if I put him in like a 200 square foot or 300 square foot tiny house. So that's something I have to think about
Uh,
too. But yeah, no, I think
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe
makes
not,
sense.
We make a cat tower for him or her, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense. I see where you would like, your dog would be like, "Hey, like I think we need to move on." I think it's
yeah,
time for you to
she, I
play.
mean, she definitely, I mean, right now she's being good. She's laying on my couch, but like, um, sometimes I'm laying on the couch, I'm watching a TV or movie show or whatever, and I just said TV or movie show. And she'll be pacing back and forth up the tiny, and I'm like, and I just got back from a WALK, and I'm like, what do you want? Like, I know, like, do you want to just cuddle with me, or you want to go do something? And it's just like, why are you being like this? Anybody that has a dog or a cat probably understands the same pain. Let me ask you this. You're in
Yeah.
San Diego. You just said
Yep.
that. I actually didn't know where you were.
Yeah.
Um, are you going to the Tiny Fest event?
I am. Yeah, I'll be there. I'm super excited to go. Like never been before. I
Oh,
think it's going to
cool.
be a great opportunity just to like meet people and just like see all of the different. I know some people bring their tiny houses. I know that you're talking and you're speaking to like
Mhm.
so yeah, no, I'm excited to meet people in person because I interviewed Ansel out in up in Oakland and hopefully they'll come down and I can meet with them too. And so yeah, I'm excited to go and see it and just be a nerd.
Yeah,
Nerd
it's
out.
a lot of fun. It's a lot, a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of fun. The benefit of, I guess, bringing your own tiny house or bringing your own van or school bus or whatever you want to bring, um, you get to party afterwards,
Mhm.
so we all get to hang out after the fairground closes for all the patrons. We get to have party time.
That's cool.
So we're all pretty exhausted after it, but we still get to party. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm doing VIP van tours. I'm
Yeah, I
doing
saw that.
I'm doing a speaking event, or doing one talk about building and designing. I'm probably going to do a couple panel discussions. We are doing a best in show award show
Awesome.
for tiny houses and vans and all that stuff. And yeah, we're actually you know revealing or unveiling
Hmm.
a van that I designed with another team from Sandy Vans.
Cool.
So if you're going to be around the Sandy Van booth, I hope you come by and at least say hello to me. It would really
Yeah,
be
for
nice
sure.
to
I
meet you in
will.
person.
Yeah, I saw you on the schedule, so no, I'll definitely come stop by. I love to see it. I just saw your story on Instagram about it,
Oh yeah.
the reveal. So I think that's awesome, and that's really cool that you designed it too. I think that's gonna be like a
I
really
designed it with
exciting.
them.
Yeah.
They were obviously a big part of it, but it
Yeah.
was it's been a lot of fun so far. And going back to really what I'm going to be doing next is,
Yeah.
I spent 3.5 years in a van. I'm going to now spend the next 6 months in a van.
Cool.
So whether or not the tiny house sells or not, I do plan on relocating to the West Coast.
Hmm.
But during my interim of where I'm going next, what city I'm picking next, I will be I'll be living full time in a van again with my dog this time. I haven't done van life with a dog yet, so this is going to be interesting. But um, yeah, so I'm going to be traveling around in that Sandy van, to a bunch of different shows and events and stuff like that. So it's gonna be I always told myself I'm never gonna go back to full-time van life, and here I am, gonna go back for about 6 months, not
Yeah.
too long.
I think that'll be exciting though. You're just gonna like go from East Coast to West Coast, like you're on the East Coast now. You're just gonna like go across the country,
Well, I'm
or
I'm picking up my whole life and I'm moving West Coast.
okay, cool.
And I spent 17 years on the West Coast.
Okay.
So I moved to Vegas right after college, and then I went
Mhm.
to LA, and then I got into van life, and then I traveled predominantly West Coast. I lived in my van in, LA, San Diego, Portland, Oregon, parts of Utah, a little bit of Arizona, Colorado, a little bit of Idaho. So I traveled around, and then after van life, I lived in Portland, Bend, Oregon, went back to Vegas, back to Portland, and then I moved back to East Coast. So it was a 17-year long journey, but I'm gonna go back because East Coast is great. This is where I'm
Mhm.
from. I was born and raised out here, right outside of Boston, but something about the West,
Yeah.
and all the work that I have over there, and it's I have to be west of Colorado. Um, so I have a couple cities in mind that I want to go to next. It's I have a yeah, I have a couple cities in mind. I'll just say I'm Salt Lake, Phoenix, Vegas again, maybe Boise. I don't
Cool.
want to do California. I don't want to do I don't want to do San Diego. I love San Diego. I just don't want to do it.
That's fair. It's not. I don't think it's for everybody. Like I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
I lived on the East Coast for like 5 years. Like actually lived outside of Boston. I lived in Waltham. Like I taught at a bunch of
Yeah.
schools in Massachusetts. I'm a professor by trade, so that's what I went to school for. And then I
So
went.
I'm actually from Newton. So
Oh,
if you know
sweet. Yeah,
Waltham, you know
that's
Newton.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I taught at Bentley over in Waltham for like
Yeah.
3 years, and then like Tufts and BU and other schools like that too. But Bentley
Wait,
was
how
probably
old are
my
you?
favorite.
Like you look super young.
Yeah, Bentley was probably my favorite. I graduated from college in '08, so yeah, I
Did
think
you
I just
really?
look younger than I am. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
so
you look wicked young.
which is great. I'm super. I love that. I love when people say that. But yeah, no, East Coast is great. I lived in Philly for 4 years too.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Philly's great, but I love Portland. Portland, I consider Portland home, so I'm probably move back up there in a few years. But
Portland,
yeah,
Oregon or Maine?
Oregon, yeah,
Okay.
love it up there. I think the West Coast is great for tiny houses and
Yeah.
anything in the industry. I think you just can't beat how many businesses there are like up and down the coast, but then also just the land and the opportunities for building different communities and stuff like that too. But yeah, I'm excited to see go to Salt Lake. I've never been there.
Oh,
Boise's
so
beautiful. I've
gorgeous.
been to Boise once. Like it's so beautiful up there.
Idaho is one of the most underrated states
I think so too.
out of the
It's
50. Yeah.
it's like beautiful. It's a
We
beautiful
got to
part of
stop
the
talking about it.
country.
Is
Yeah.
what's going on? I
Yeah.
mean, if you spend any time up in the Panhandle, I mean, or anybody has, they'll say it's the most gorgeous landscapes ever.
Yeah.
Other than maybe like Telluride, that area of Colorado. If you ever get a chance to go out there, that
Okay.
they consider that like the Swiss of the United States.
Okay. Cool. I'll have to check it out.
It's like, yeah, it's like massive mountains. And if you ever get a chance to get to like Banff, Canada, I know that's a different country, but Banff, Canada, absolutely stunningly beautiful, like just next level beauty.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, yeah. But Boise, my brother lives in Boise now. He loves it. He
Okay.
absolutely loves it. So
Cool. Yeah, I want to go back.
it's nice. It's nice. So I don't, yeah, I don't know where I'm probably gonna end up in a warmer climate because I just spent
Mhm.
the last 7 months during winter in Maine,
Oh my gosh.
and you know what that's like being,
Hmm.
living in the
Yeah.
Northeast.
Yeah.
Uh, Um, I think
That's
snow is
brutal.
beautiful. Yeah, it was nice. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna talk about my tiny house at some point, but I do have radiant floor heating in my
Okay.
tiny house, so
Yeah.
I got that going for me. So it's not all that bad. Me and my dog are quite comfortable.
Yeah. What did you sort of like I haven't seen too much of your tiny house. I've been looking a lot on the your YouTube channel with the different van tours, but
Well, I just
yeah,
posted a
like
tour on my
what's
YouTube
the
channel.
what's it like what's it like in terms of like the design, like what went into that sort of like process for you with all of your with your background and everything, like what is there anything about it that like you were like I gotta have this in there, and like how did that sort of go with the designing of it?
I wanted to go as small as possible. So my original, for me, I don't know if other people are like this. It's just kind of how I am. So I try to figure out the footprint, right? So whatever those dimensions are, and then I work with that.
Yeah.
So if it's, I originally designed it so obviously I've been to a bunch of tiny house shows and
Yeah.
expos and all that stuff. One of my friends, Drew, he built a 16-foot tiny house, and I was like, this thing is rad. Because coming from the van world, smaller is cooler.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I want to build like a maybe a 16 or 20 footer.
Hmm.
So I was like, I'm gonna do a 20 footer. And then I started designing it, and I was like, I can't fit everything I want in a 20 footer. So let's go to 22 feet. And I priced that out. I started designing that, and I was like, I need 2 more feet. So I ended on a 24 footer, and in my opinion, I think 24 feet is the bee's knees. It's the
Hmm.
best lengthwise you could possibly ask for. So now that I had that set, I'm like, okay, what are my wants and needs? I need a bedroom.
Yep.
I need an office space. I need seating for two. I need storage for clothes.
Hmm.
I want a bathroom with a shower and a toilet, and I need room for all of that. Like I want a big kitchen with countertop, like those. So that's all going through my head. And then you kind of just start playing around with, a CAD software. I just use SketchUp. Why not?
Yeah.
And then you start playing with it three-dimensionally, and you start, looking up what products I'm going to be using and what I'm going to be putting into the tiny house. And you start creating those dimensions inside of your space, and you kind of work from there. Like my original design did not have a Murphy bed in it. It had a slightly elevated bed with a bunch of storage underneath it, that I was going to use for power and everything else. And then one day I was like, well, Murphy bed actually makes sense because you want to separate that room without even, it's a small space. Like you need to separate the spaces in a small space.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. Where I'm sitting right now is always in my head. I'm up in my content corner or my crow's nest. I always had like an idea of having an elevated office loft, and I'm obsessed with like New York style lofts.
Mm-hmm.
So like or industrial lofts. So that's kind of where like that this kind of stemmed from.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably where I'm sitting right now is probably my favorite part of my house.
That makes sense. That's cool. I love it. And I like the brick in the back too. That
It's
does give
fake.
like the yeah,
All
I
fake.
figured it might be, but it gives like the, like a cool loft vibe too. So like yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's
I use
cool.
this as like obviously an accent piece. It's a
Yeah.
little bit too dark to kind of go throughout the entire house. Although this company makes a whitewashed brick, which I probably should have used.
Okay.
But I went with concrete walls or fake concrete walls,
Mm-hmm.
with these brick accents. So I have two brick walls pretty much on both ends that kind of I use them as accent walls.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's just it I wasn't even gonna go with a concrete wall,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna go with that whitewashed brick, but like I don't know, I kind of put these next to each, I got samples from all these companies, and I was just like I put them next to each other, and it just clicked.
Yeah.
There's so many like for me during the design process, like that, like the beginning of it is just shapes.
Yeah.
You're trying to put rectangles and triangles and other shapes into a bigger rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you finally step into your empty rectangle, then you can start to really imagine different things. This can go here, this can go there, and you're gonna make, 192 different changes.
Yeah.
And I did. And you kind of have to just kind of roll with that. And you're gonna have to get a separate set of eyes into that space and somebody that can maybe throw ideas at you and that's where my Murphy bed came from. My brother-in-law stepped into my tiny house during the early stages of building, and I told him I was gonna do this elevated bed situation, and he just was like, "Why? Like, do a Murphy bed." And I was like, "Oh, maybe I should do a Murphy bed." That's how it all came.
That's cool. I think that's great, and I appreciate you like just sort of talking about that process too, because I think a lot of people have no idea what it's gonna be like, and just kind of thinking of a tiny house as like an idea versus like designing it and really getting into the space and seeing what it's gonna be like. I think, and then changing your mind a million times too, and being okay with that. So I think
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense too.
Even now talking to you, I like
Yeah.
want to make a design change. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
Nice. What kind of advice would you give to someone that's like considering going tiny or like going to van life or just sort of like making that transition out of their current lifestyle to
Mm.
something similar to what you're doing?
This is advice that I give, but I don't follow because I'm the worst at following my own advice.
Mm-hmm.
But patience is the key word. And we are in such a society right now that we're instant gratification and
Yeah,
we
for
need
sure.
we need something yesterday instead of,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I'm I'm the worst at that. I'm really bad example of that because I want everything now. But sometimes you just have to sit back and remember why you're doing this, and whatever the reason is, it's going to be there in a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So just hold on. It's okay. Like if you build a van and you're like, well, I want to travel to 14 national parks, I can promise you the national parks aren't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna be there in a year from now. They're gonna be there in 2 years from now. Like they're not going anywhere. And if a tiny house, I get it. Like you just take your time and do it right. Building one is you're gonna need a lot of patience. If you're gonna build one yourself, but if you're gonna just order from a builder or a company like that, just maybe have patience with them. You
Yeah.
know,
No, that makes sense. I love that because I do think that like you really like sort of hit that on the like
Mm.
like with our society like everything has to be like right away, and I think that you lose out on enjoying the process too, and I think that
Mhm.
that's really important because once it's built and it's all set, like that's it, like you can't go back and like rebuild it all over again.
You
Tear
could.
it down, I guess, in
Big
theory,
waste of money.
but that would be kind of stressful. So I think That's a really good point. Just kind of enjoy everything and have fun. I think we forget to have fun when we take
Yeah.
on big projects too, or we have like this big idea, like we want something to be like perfect. Like I think that's something to think about too, just to make sure that you keep you have fun with it. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're not gonna enjoy the process.
It's funny you say that like that because
Mhm.
like when I decided to sell my house and we're recording this in February, right? Late
Yep.
February.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, I decided to sell right around the new year and I really didn't even push the button of selling
Yeah.
until about 4 weeks ago. Okay.
Hmm.
And when I made that decision, 8 weeks ago or 10 weeks ago,
Yeah.
that is when I actually started enjoying where I am.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, can I swear on this? Oh
Yeah.
shit, like this is cool.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it took me that that moment to happen for it to be like this is fun. This is cool. Like so, if you're in a shitty situation, like sometimes there's a lot of joy in it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's that what's that old saying like the guy that's walking to work is really envious of the one that's on a bike, but the guy that's on the bike is really envious of the person in the car, and the person in the car is envious of the person that has a driver driving his car. It's like, enjoy what you've got now,
Yeah.
because the guy that was walking to work might be envious of the person riding his bike, but you know what? There's somebody in a wheelchair that can't walk.
Hmm.
So be grateful for what you have in the
Yeah.
moment and enjoy what you've got and like live now instead of living for tomorrow or definitely do not dwell on the past.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I mean, I agree with that too, and I feel like that is something that the tiny industry kind of represents. I think, at least to me, just like taking a risk, living your life, enjoying it, and not worrying about what other people think, and just sort of like going for it. And I think that a lot of people that are a part of this community sort of like are really good examples of that. They're just sort of like they sell their houses, they buy a tiny house, they build a tiny house they know nothing about building. Like they go and they buy a van for however much money and they like just live in it and they have no idea what they're doing. They don't even know where they're going. I think that that's
I,
a really great, I think the whole community is a really good example of that. So I think maybe that's
yeah.
why I gravitated towards so much is so many like really cool people just doing their own thing, but not necessarily being like it has to be perfect or like I have to do it this way. And no one cares what other people are doing, like in a good way.
Nobody gives a crap. Like
Hmm.
people can come into my house all day long and tell me that I have done a fantastic job. They can watch my videos and say I've done great. I can go through my house with a fine-tooth comb and I can pick out,
Hmm.
92 different things that I really hate,
Yeah.
because of how I did it or how I built it. And I was just like irritated with it, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
That's what this community is all about, is like, we're all here to just support each other,
Yeah.
and just, really, really support each other. Not like tell us that we're pretty every day, but like we'll give
Yeah.
like constructive criticism
Yeah.
support,
Yeah.
and be there for each other. And it's like, you don't know how to do something, we're here to help, and that's why the community is so great.
Hmm. And honestly, it's rare. It really isn't. Like we're in such a big comparison culture. And
Yeah.
and I think like it's unfortunate because like I'll see these really amazing videos on YouTube or like really awesome posts on Instagram, great stories, and like it's just like people get flooded with like negative comments and unnecessary criticism from people that like know nothing about their life, know nothing about what they're doing. So I think that like finding genuine people that actually want to see you grow and see you do well and not asking anything in return, it just doesn't exist anymore. So it is good to see that. It is a very genuine group of people that really do just want to share ideas, really want to just help each other, live their best lives.
And for everybody that wants to be some sort of content creator,
Hmm.
you gotta handle the negativity out there, because there's a lot of it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that hate on what, I don't care what you do.
Hmm.
You could saving whales and you're gonna find a hater.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
and you have to have thick skin,
Yeah.
but I love the people that give that unsolicited advice that like, oh, you can just don't look at that comment. Don't do that. Don't give them energy. And I'm just like, it's impossible.
Hmm.
So, and if you try to like bottle that up,
Yeah.
and so my advice is actually opposite. If you try to bottle up that anger and that like negativity, it's all going to come out,
Yeah.
and just destroy you one day. So, in my opinion, it's actually good to read over the negativity
Mhm.
and kind of understand where they're coming from. And um, when I look at my comments, I will either fight fire with fire, or I will also, like, if there's some sort of negative comment, I'm always like, you know what? Like, why are you what's going on? Like, is there something else that's bothering you? Why are you doing this? Like,
Yeah.
do you understand it? Like, let me educate you.
Hmm.
And if you follow me on Instagram, and sometimes I'll take screenshots and I'll share them on Instagram stories. And for the people that do hold it down and read it, like, yeah, there are people that kind of get on my case about the whole like bully mentality, like people that are cyberbullying me.
Hmm.
But like, how I deal with a bully is I bully back.
Hmm.
I'm like, if they can't, I don't know. And that's just my 2 cents on it. But um and the only reason I do that is because I used to be a bully, and I'm sad to say that, but I was a bully. I was a douchebag, and you grow up and you learn, and if sometimes you need to get punched in the face. Like,
Yeah.
it's true.
No, I think it's a good point because, like, if you don't want to bottle it and have it eat you up, but, you have to
Yeah.
be careful with how you respond to people too. And then you don't know where they're coming from too. So, yeah, I just sort of take the approach of, like, you just kind of say thank you, you ask questions, you provide
Yeah.
information if you can, and then you just kind of move on, 'cause it's not really worth it because everyone's kind of doing their own thing. But, yeah, I think that's a good point too because there's always gonna be someone that doesn't like something that you're doing, but as long
But
as you're having
yeah.
fun with it, you can let it roll off your shoulder. I think that's for the best.
Well, I love how you said, like you actually just made a like amazing point, because like, find whatever works for you
Yeah.
and do that. Like, what works for me is I love to clap back, right? Is what the kids are saying today.
Yeah, it is.
I want to put my light on so you guys can see me a little bit better. There we go.
Yeah, I hear that term a lot in Fortnite. I play a lot of Fortnite, so yeah, no, clapping
I've
back is
never gone into gaming. I should have.
I love it. It's so much fun.
I'm really glad I didn't, because I would be obsessed.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
It happens.
very, very, very competitive.
Yeah.
I have to like compete against somebody.
Hmm.
Like, all right, like, this is gonna be a little sad.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, not the main reason, but one of the reasons why I built my tiny house was because year after year, I was going to an event called Colorado Tiny House Festival.
Hmm.
And I'm friends with the coordinator. His name's Art. He's awesome. Every year they give a best in show.
Yep.
And every year, for 2 years in a row, my buddy Drew won it. And then he wasn't even there the next year. But I was determined to beat Drew.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm gonna build a house. I'm gonna bring it to this festival, and I'm gonna beat your ass. And we're good buddies, so it didn't matter. But it was just like, I was like, I'm going to win that award just so I can say I won that award over Drew.
Hmm.
And that was one of my big motivators on why I built this house, because I was like, and now Art, he's pretty upset that I'm not bringing my house to his event this year, but it does cost a lot of money for me to bring it out to Colorado, so I'm not bringing it. So sorry.
It motivated you, whatever works.
It
You
did.
got
It
you got
did.
the house built.
It did. And I yeah, and there was other motivators, that were in there. Like, I actually believe that, you follow tiny houses probably more than you do vans, right?
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think there's a massive like, not drop off. I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but there's a disconnect of tiny houses built there, and I don't want to say the word correctly.
Hmm.
Um, they're missing. They're not dropping the ball. They're missing something.
Hmm.
So I wanted to build this one to kind of show builders what's possible. Like,
Yeah.
look what I fit in a 24-foot space, everybody. Like,
Hmm.
look, I love when tiny house builders are like, yeah, it's off-grid capable. And I'm like, what's your battery power? What do you
Yep.
have for a charge controller? What do you
Hmm.
have for an inverter? And they tell me, and I'm like, that's not off-grid capable. Like, you guys haven't built an off-grid house before, have you?
Hmm.
They're like, yeah, 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 we have. Like, you're using lead acid batteries, for crying out loud, or whatever. So I wanted to show the internet. I wanted to show these other builders, like, This 24 footer is a true off-grid house.
Yeah.
You know, this one is, XYZ, or this one is that. So that was probably my biggest motivator.
That makes sense. I think that's good. I think like builders can always learn, from what people do, because I think your mindset's a little bit different when you're building it on your own than when you're building it as a company. Maybe you're trying to scale, maybe you're not
Yeah.
trying to do too many things that are too expensive. You're trying to, be cost effective, and maybe some things get lost in that. So I think I mean, that's great. Hopefully they're learning from you and they're not sort of, they're like taking notes and just seeing it as like a good learning experience for them
Yeah.
too.
I hate to say this. I doubt they learned anything from watching my
It's
videos.
it's possible, but I don't
No.
know. I tried to go into everything with an open mind because like I feel like you can. The beauty of YouTube is that you can learn. It's like having this endless 24/7 library where you could basically learn
Yeah.
anything you want if you're willing to. So I think that that's a missed opportunity if they don't, but hopefully some of them do.
Yeah. Oh boy, YouTube.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being
Well,
on
that
the
was it? You know any
channel.
more questions for me?
No, I don't have any more questions for you. Like, I try to keep them like the interviews pretty short because I feel like
Yeah, I
the
know. We've
shorter
gone
ones
about 40 minutes or
are
so.
I think the shorter is the better. But yeah, no, I appreciate you being on the channel, and I'll see you at Tiny Fest, and I'm excited to see what you do next and like chat again too. Like, I'm open to having you be on the channel again too in the future, and we can just like
I think
connect.
you're great. So absolutely, I would love
Yeah,
to do the show again, or podcast, or whatever you want to call it. I love to talk about this stuff. I
yeah,
don't, and please, if anybody is in the Southern California area, please come out to Tiny Fest.
yeah.
There's not just tiny homes there. There's vans, school buses,
Hmm.
a lot of DIY, a lot of professionals. It's a great way for people to also learn. I think you learn more from going to an expo than you do listening to two talking heads. But
Yeah,
um, not that you don't learn from us.
yeah.
We're fantastic.
Yeah. No, I do think
Um,
it's gonna be great. I'm gonna make a video about it before I go, just to give people a sense of what it is, and hopefully get some good content to make a video like after the fact. I don't know if I'll do a live while I'm there. Don't know if I want to do that, but definitely do something around it because there's so many amazing things there. I think it's gonna be fantastic for me, like a great experience for me. But yeah, I definitely want to show people like what it like the community sort of like putting together too, because I think there's gonna be so much fun stuff there. Like, I'm super excited.
yeah,
I
good stuff. Live music, and I think their fifth year at the Del Mar Fairgrounds.
Mhm.
So, if you get a chance, also try and go out to the Colorado one. The Colorado one is pretty epic.
Okay. Cool.
Um, there's a whole bunch up the California coast again,
Yeah.
up in like Fresno or something. So,
Okay.
yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And, I'm sorry we didn't get to chat more about going into design and stuff. I'm always, let's do that next time.
Yeah, no, for sure. We can do that next time. I'm glad that you were able to say the things that you were saying, and like things that you've, sort of shared about your experience too. And, for everybody that's like, watching the video, like put links to, your socials and your page in the description so they can check you out and make sure that they,
Thank you.
continue to learn more about you and just sort of like support you because, I can't thank you enough. So I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking soon and having you back on here.
Yeah, just yeah, let's link up in San Diego. It'd be awesome to meet you.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
All
cool.
right. We'll talk soon.
Yep. All right, so that was my conversation with Jarrod. Really incredible stuff. Really, really fun conversation. Just sharing about their inspiration, right? Like what inspired them to go tiny, to live in a van, to build their own tiny house and design it out. What sort of like motivated them? Any sort of fears they had, things that they had to overcome, sort of different things like that, and just how much they appreciate being a part of the community, which is a really amazing community. And then also just making the decision to sell their tiny house as well too. So thank you so much for watching. Please do make sure that you subscribe to the channel for those of you who are new. Tap the notification bell so you find out when I drop new videos. I drop new videos every week. Check out Jarrod's socials. Check out their YouTube page. It's phenomenal. Check out their website. Learn more about them, what they do. Take a look at Tiny Fest. There's a link in the description for Tiny Fest as well. I'll make a video about that in a few weeks, a little bit closer to when Tiny Fest happens. And then, yeah, check out all the new videos. I'm super excited for the next videos that are coming sort of like down the line for the channel. Just more interviews with people who are running their own tiny house companies, people who are living tiny and different things like that. So you don't want to miss it. So again, make sure you subscribe. tap that notification bell, and as always, don't forget to thank Tiny. Thanks so much, guys. See you in the next one.